I want to give you some things tonight, just a little bit, then we get into finances. Everyone that talks to someone or listens to someone is a counselor. You say, well, I don't have your degrees and I don't have all your stuff, so I'm not a counselor. Yes, you are. Anybody that you talk to or you listen to, you are a counselor. So I'm going to do tonight. Last week I talked about marriage counseling. Remember I said you ask them a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you rate? Men always rate higher than the women. And then what do you try to do? You ask them, what does it take to get me to get her or him to move up 1/2 a point? You don't do very much at a time, just 1/2 at a point. And then you work on that, and then you continue on that. I heard this evening somebody made an announcement that somebody died. Somebody went home to be with the Lord or something. I don't know anything about the person. But all stress, I want you to just get this and then I'll get into finances. All stress. You ever get stressed? Comes from 4 areas. No more. These are the 4 areas. I'm going to give them to you. If you had a piece of paper on the back, you can write them down. All stress comes from, first of all, loss. That's any kind of loss. We talked about a person or a prayer request. You can have a little doggie that you're close to, and you lose that little doggie. That's loss. So all stress comes from these 4 areas. Loss. The second one is life threats. Now, I'm not the greatest speller, and don't you necessarily spell it the way I spell it. Okay. But if you're in a life-threatening situation, that causes stress. The third area that stress comes from is called internal conflict. And that it can be anything that's on your mind. If I were doing something wrong, I would be having an internal conflict because I'm trying to hide that from you. Okay? And the last one is the one that most of us get involved in. This is called wear. Is that W-A-R-E? Wear and tear. I don't know how T-A-R-E. I don't know if that's spelled right. It's just everyday life. Wear and tear. It's not spelled right. Spell them right on your thing. I'm not a speller. And those things, the wear and tear. I know I've been asked to teach at this place or that place, and I have to get up early in the morning and drive there, spend there the day, and come back. That's called what? Wear and tear. I'm 73 years old, and I said, it doesn't make any difference what you pay me. I will not do that. I've learned that that's where the biggest area of all, and when you're counseling someone, when you're talking to someone, think about this wear and tear, okay? Then I want to show you about loss. I'm just going to talk about it tonight, loss. When you suffer any loss, you go through 5 stages, okay? Any loss. And you can just do them by like this, D, A, B, D, A. And I'll give you the words for each one of them. Okay, when you go through any loss, no matter what the loss is, you go through these stages. Now, you can go into it, you can go through them instantly. You can get some of them, and you never get out of some of them. The first one is denial. You deny that that's happened. One time I come off of where I lived, to come off of a hill in West Virginia, and hit somebody in the side of the car, and I said, that didn't happen. Saw the car spin around, and I said, I didn't hit that person. But it did. It was denial. Okay. The second one is anger. Anger. One Saturday, years ago, I told my wife, I said, your dad is textbook suicide. To get a PhD in counseling, you take just one course on nothing but suicide, when it comes about and what caused it. And I could see his life, and I said, your dad is textbook suicide. Kathy said, Don, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, okay. I just let you know. I've watched him, and I'm telling you. Monday morning at 8 o'clock, I was at the office, and the phone rang, and my secretary answered, and she said, Don, Kathy's crying. She said, just come home, come home. I said, what happened? Dad killed himself today. Dad killed himself today. So, and Kathy's mother took a long time, just these 2 stages. I mean, it took years of working. This happened in 2004 to get her moved from this stage to the next stage. Okay? So your counselors, and I'm just helping you out, you understand? I may tell you about something that you can understand about suicide and the things. The next one is called bargaining. We bargain with God. We bargain with other people. We bargain. We bargain. And this bargaining stage is a lot of questions. A lot of questions. It's bargaining. The next one, and this is one as a counselor I have to be concerned about. It's called depression. Okay. On depression, I'm dealing with someone now that is going through depression. And I have to know how to deal with that and what all is going on with this person. Because when I get to this stage and I see that's going to run, I know this much. This is suicide. This is suicide. Think about it. Think about it. Decision. This is exactly the same. Do it. All right. Now, how I was able to tell Kathy's dad, because the weekend before he gave away his tractor. Boy, they were just so happy. Man, he's all changed. I said, Kathy, you're in trouble. He's made his decision. He gave away, he just as happy as could be. See, he's made his decision. He has no more problems. And he would have done it that Saturday, but he had his daughter with him. But that Monday morning, he killed himself. All right, now, I just wanted to show you these things just to help you, particularly for my pastor friend. He's my friend, to help you. And when you deal with a lot of people, I deal with a lot of people. I deal with people that's not in my church or everything because I'm a licensed professional counselor. And just helping you to understand, are there any questions on this? Then we're going to get to finances. You counsel, and you just watch these things in a person. You watch. And I'm going to bring you some pens, if I don't forget it. They're little pens I had made up. I have a corporation in which, see if I've got some, I don't have any in here, but they're just, here's one. Just little pens, and it says Sharing Love Ministries on it. I fund that, so that has nothing to do with you. But, pardon me, it has my phone number on there. Now, if you call me for a question, counseling, I will not counsel you until I ask you one question. Have you gone to your pastor? You understand it? I would, under no circumstance, will I counsel anyone unless they've gone to their pastor. All right, are there any questions on these? Just want to help you. This is not finances, yes. Oh, that's why I failed classes. I don't see you anymore at the bank. Well, I haven't been in there this year, so I don't go in there. Acceptance. I don't know how to spell that either. E-N-C-E, I think. Now, that's acceptance. When you accept, now Kathy's mom, my wife's mom, has moved from here through all of these, and now she's accepted. And life is just fine. But you go through any loss whatsoever. You understand that. If your wife's father passes away, you'll go through these. It'll be less hard on you because if you have, it's not a sudden call because you're more expectant. And let me tell you this, you can go through these before the event. You understand that? Okay. Any other questions? Somebody called me, a number of people called me just before I came. And I've been on the phone a long time. Okay. I apologize. All right, I'm going to write these down. I'll close these out. Anything? Comments? Okay. All right. I had 2 questions after church last Wednesday night, and if they're here, would you ask those questions, and we'll go over them? And then you asked one of the questions. Okay, does anybody know what the difference between a long-term investment is and a short-term investment? That's a good question. A long-term investment is you put your money and you don't expect to use it for 30 years, and you don't use it, or 20 or 30, whatever length of time that may be. A short-term investment is that you put your money out for a specific purpose, or it's also called an emergency fund. Do you know what I mean by an emergency fund? Okay, everybody, you should have, now, when you're young, it's hard to do this, but you should have a 3-month emergency fund. You never know, I don't know, nor does anyone know what's going to happen at any time. Things are unstable now, and they've been unstable for a long time, but I mean, they're just becoming more unstable because we don't know what's going on. Like, let me give you an example. Let me give you 2 other words just in a little bit. I want to give you these 2 words because the stock market runs on these 2 words. Everything in the stock market only runs on 2 words. Does anybody want to know what 2 words are? Huh?
I want to know. I don't know, but I want to.
I don't care what you want. These are the 2 words, the stock market. Now you watch. I wrote it down. At 12 o'clock noon, when Mr. Trump was through presidency, and at 12 o'clock noon when Mr. Biden was sworn in. The next 3 days, the stock market did, because it's running on this word. Fear. Now, since then, it's come way back up, but it's running on fear. The stock market, everything in life runs on 2 words, greed, and the other one I just told you. How do you spell that? G-R-E-E-D? Okay. Greed. Everything runs on greed and fear. Now, on a long-term investment, it doesn't make any difference whether it's greed or fear. Greed or fear. It doesn't make any difference because you're not looking at what it's running today. See, it's going to go, it went down, but then it came right back up because no one knew what was going to happen, did you? I mean, we had riots. No one knew what was going to happen, and there's fear. So anytime the market goes down, there's fear. You can read on, they'll talk about something, the fear that day, the COVID-19, all this, the vaccines or whatever it may be. It runs on greed or fear. So on a long-term investment, it makes no difference because it has nothing to do what's going to happen 30 years from now, but it has everything to do if you're on a short-term investment, greed and fear. You have to learn how those work. So when I have short-term investments and I have long-term investments. The long-term investments, I started when I was 25 years old. That's when I figured out money. And at that point, I've never touched my long-term investments. They've gone on. But my short-term investments, I save for a time. And then at all cases, even if you're short-term and you don't use it all or do use it, have an emergency fund. Have you a fund that you can set aside. I set up each of my boys an emergency fund, just started off with like $1,000 apiece. And I said, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to have taken off of your check where you get paid every week, every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever. Have just a small amount going in it and build that emergency fund. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. Well, they have done that. And that emergency fund now has built up to almost a down payment for a house. I mean, you just take a little bit. Time is money, compound interest. The reason my wife and I understand money is compound interest is this. The stock I bought when I was 25 years old, I'll be 74 in July, so that's 49 years ago. I've never taken a dividend. My dividends, I don't take them. I don't need it. I didn't need it. My dividends stay in there to buy more stock, which buys more dividends, which buys more stock, which buys, and it just keeps escalating and escalating. And it's exponential, the way it grows. So the stock that I bought 49 years ago, have never taken one dividend, has just doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled. And that's the secret I gave you with this little paper, time is money. Do you understand then? You have a short-term investment that you're looking to buy a house or whatever it is. But then when you buy that house, get an emergency fund. Always have something going into the emergency fund. And I commend anybody that does not have to go to Mama and Papa. Let me just tell you something real simple about myself. That's where I'm coming from. Born July 17th, 1947, up a hollow, not in a hospital, in a place, little old creek, wasn't no town, no store, called Leatherwood, West Virginia. My father died when I was 11. We had nothing. Mom had no job. We had nothing. I determined then at age 11 that somewhere along the line I was going to learn how to have a little bit of money. This I learned. You never get rich working. You get rich when this works for you. You don't get rich working. You get rich when your money works. When you've got your money out and it's working for you. That's what happens to me. My money is working for me and I don't have to work. You understand that? Okay? So in these things, that was a question. Is the person here that asked the other question? He may not be here tonight. He asked about how often do I check my investments? How often do you think I check them? Every day. When I go home, I have my investments. I can't check them. Earliest I can check them is 7:15. Then I have another one that don't come in until 8:15 or 8:30. It's in Texas. Okay, I check my investments every day to see if nobody has gotten into me. The investments that I have on my computer. I have 9 investments on my computer, and I started bringing this little sheet of paper, and I write on there what they are, and I'll write down tonight, and I'll add them up, and I'll just set it tomorrow. And then on the Saturdays, I have this desk calendar. On the Saturdays, I write each one. If you come into my office, you can look and say, oh, that's what he is, because I write them down every Saturday. Not only do I do that, my investments, I have two great grandchildren. That's my wife's with them right now. When they were born, I gave $260. Their grandpa, I'm the great-grandpa, gave $260. And we put that money in the bank, $520. I did that for Eleni. I checked hers last night. As of last night, it's $1,092. He's 3 years old. The little boy is $534. Now, the way you invest in that particular way, I go to Chase Bank. Now, you can go to any bank you want. I happen to be in Chase Bank in West Virginia, and I told you last week the reason I did that is because when we lived in Moscow, Russia, I had to have a bank that was worldwide. Okay? So in Chase Bank, you set up a checking account. You have to bring in $500, and let's call it $500, plus you've got to have $10 or $20 to go over. You got to keep some money in that checking account at all times. All right, so we went in. This happened last month. We went in for his name is Owen. We put $500, and we already had 20 in there because I had his sisters. They're in a checking account. You don't get any checks. You don't get checks. You write. It has nothing to do with that. Then, as soon as we go in there, we take in cash because instantly it is going into the stock market. All right, now I'm a little boy, little great-grandson, less than a month. This is what was in it last night. $534. Now think of him. He's 1 year old. Now you just think of that. If we never put any more, your money doubles in the stock market around every 8 years. The average is 9% a year. That's the average. Some years you're going to go lower. Right? Now you just think of this, and you put this call it $500. He's 1. When he's 9, that's 1,000. 8 years, 17, that's 2,000. 8 years, 25. That's 4,000. Now, you haven't put no more in it. 8 years, 33, that's 8,000. 8 years, 41. How was it up to? What was the last one? 8,000, 16,000. 49 is 32,000. Now, watch this. Little boy don't know what Papa's done for him. Okay, so he's up to how much? 32, all right. 57, it's how much? 64. And 65, 128. Now watch it now. 256, 512, 1 million. Time is money. $1 million. So I set up each one of my great-grandchildren. I set them up that money. It cost me $500. But then what else? I give them so much for Christmas, and guess what? Papa buys no toys. That's not all he gets. Every year they get $250 from me, another $250 for Grandpa. Now it's not one. It doubles every year almost, and it's just that's where it is. Any questions on this before I hand out some papers? Any questions right now before I hand out some papers for tonight? Yes. You just go, you can go to any bank you want, okay? But I go to Chase because, as I said, I had the account. You just go in, you call a broker. I go to Valparaiso because I can also go to Napanee. I call somebody there and I said, I want to talk to your financial manager. You go in, that's going to take you an hour or so because you got to set up a checking account. Then you got to set up an investment account. And they get all that set up. Once it's set up, okay, once you got it set up, all I have to do from now on, there's plenty of there, I think, it should be, for not, everybody gets at least one. Once you set up that account, you got any left over there? One or two? Okay. Anybody else need one? Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, just one per couple we need. We got two more. We got everybody. Who didn't get one? Okay. Once I set up that account, I don't ever have to go back to that bank. You understand? I get some of their envelopes. They said, will you give me some envelopes? They had their address up here. I put the address here. I ask them for deposit slips. I just mail a check in. Then I wait to check, and I call, his name is Steve up there, and I say, Steve, did you get the check? You have deposit? Is it cleared? Yeah. Okay, I want this much money invested over in this account. I do that. And my daughter, my granddaughter, she's having money taken out every week of her check, and once you leave the $20 in there, whatever you put in the checking account, you can invest. You can put in 100, 250, whatever it is. And it just continues to make that. Any other questions? Do you understand? Yes. Okay, when I invest with J.P. Morgan, that's in mutual funds. But it's actually, it's a mutual stock portfolio. It's not just 2% mutual funds. They make big money, and ours makes good money. But I let them do the investing for me. I don't have time and not. Let me tell you a little secret so you understand. If you're going to invest for yourself, this is what percent of people, it's in one of them books I gave you. This is what percent of people, it's 84 to 80, lose. They lose money. Because you don't have the expertise that they have. I don't suspect any of you put down this carpet. I suspect you brought somebody who knows what they're doing. It's everything in life. They know what they're doing. They do that. They look at that. That's all they do. They're paid to do that. So I have bought some individual stock on my own, but most of all, I just give it to a company and let that company invest it for me and trust them. But I get a good company. Okay. Any other questions? All right, now let me show you. Turn your Bibles to Proverbs 13:18. Bring this sheet back for next week because we won't get through all this tonight. You notice on the sheet, on one page, I discuss money management. We're going to do that. The deadly sins. How to calculate your retirement. If you want to know when you retire, that's how you calculate it. We'll go over this. The 10 Commandments for retirement planning. On the other one, we're going to do right now. So get the one, get the one up here that says management of money, and we'll go to it just in a little bit. Who has Proverbs 13:18? Proverbs 13:18. Read it.
Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction, but he that regardeth reproof shall be honored.
Okay. If you refuse instruction, I didn't say this. Solomon said it under God's direction. Poverty and shame. I was dealing with a couple, and they were very faithful to come to church, but when I taught this, they wouldn't come. They said, you're talking more than we want to know. Well, long story short, 3 bankruptcies and lost their house. Poverty and shame come to those who refuse instruction. What's the latter part of that verse?
But he that regardeth reproof shall be honored.
If you regard reproof, somebody has corrected me many times, God will honor you. That's what he's done. He honors his word. It's his word. Okay. Now, I want to show you something. Turn to Matthew 25. It's on this piece of paper right here. You see it right here, money management. See that side right there? We'll try to get just a little bit this done tonight. And by the way, I have on one of the pages here, Pastor, on annuity. You asked me about annuities, and I've got also the 4 laws of stewardship. So I put them out, so we'll get them taken care of. All right. Matthew chapter 25, that's a great chapter because it talks also about the 5 wise persons that had oil in their lamp and those that did not. As you come on down, it talks about some people, and God gave, as you go on down and reading in that verse here, God gave one man how many talents? As you read on down. It starts in chapter 25, verse 14 through 30, but as you read on down, he called these stewards together, and he gave them how much money? How much did the first one he give? Okay, here it is. Here's 5 talents. Now, I want you to watch what's going to happen. This is going to be very important that you catch on money management. Okay. Okay, he called another one in. What did he give him? 2. Okay, so I'm going to just show you exactly what it is. So there's 2 here. 1, 2. So he gave another one 2 talents. Okay. All right, so then he gave another one some. How much did he give the other one? 1. Okay. How many talents are on the board? Remember, there's 2 here. 8 talents. 8. Okay. Jesus come and said, it's time to report back to me. He said, sir, what did you do with your 5 talents? What did he say he did with them? Sir, he said, I'll tell you what I did. I heard old man one day talk about investment, so I went out and invested it. He says, I got 5 more. He says, wow, that's good. Talk to the other person. What'd he say he had? Made 2 more. Jesus said, well done. That's really good. He said, you've done well. And he said, I'm proud of you. So this one here's got these now. He's made 2 more, so he's got 4. Okay. Now he comes to this one. He said, what'd you do with it? Hid it. Read on down what Jesus said you at least could have done what? Huh? Yeah, he said you could put it in the bank and draw a little bit of interest. They said, well, I didn't do that. He said, well, now let's watch this now. How many do we got on the board? How much is this? How many's here? How many's here? How many is that? All right. Father, this is what I expect you to do. You take my 1, you put it over here, you take his 5, and we all got 5 apiece. That would be fair, wouldn't it? I mean, everybody has 5. We all want to be equal, don't we? The father said, I don't think so. He said, this one right here, he said, you give it to the boy over here who can make money out of it. That's me. I got your $1. Now listen closely. Let's read that. Read what it said. Verse 29. Matthew 25:29. He took that $1 away from him, gave it to somebody else. If you don't at least make some interest, God will take your $1 and he'll give it to somebody who can. Do you like that? Wouldn't it be easier to just give 5, 5, 5, this over here doesn't it? God says, I don't work that way. I don't work that way. If you're not willing to at least take my money, God told him, you could at least put it in the bank and draw some interest. You could at least done that for me. He said, no, I didn't do anything. So I take it and I invest it. I have no money in no account that's not drawing interest. I have no money in even my checking account. I make 1.5% interest off of it. We're going to have $10,000, yeah, but I had an emergency fund, so I just put it over there. That's Lake City Bank. Got quite a bit there. And But every single one of my accounts, because I know the Word of God, and here's what I know. If I will invest the money wisely, He will give me more money to invest. From him that has, give him more. But if you're not going to do anything, take what he's got, take it away, and give it to my boy up there. He knows how to do it. He knows how to handle it. Do you understand that great principle right there? A lot of people can't grasp that in the Bible. So I've laid that all out there. Okay. Any questions on that? Do you understand that? You invest, you do something with God's money. God has given it to you. I'm a steward. The Bible said, moreover, of a man is required that he be found faithful. God blesses on my faithfulness. The Bible said, be not slothful in business. So when I go home tonight, I will turn on the computer, and the ones that's on that computer, I'll go down, and I'll write them down. I'll look at what Elanie's is, that's my great-granddaughter. I'll look at what Owen's is, that's my great-grandson, and I'll look what Anna's is. Anna is autistic. Anna will not be able, I don't think, to do a whole lot in life. She's smart in math, but she has a hard time getting stuff. She was there today, and we taught her. I spent a lot of time with her, almost talked out, helping her with math and science. She's in the 7th grade. But Anna don't know this, but Grandpa has taken care of her so that she will be able to be set for the rest of her life. I want to take care of her because I realize her situation. And God has honored her, and she's blessed. He's blessed what we've done for her. Any questions before we go to the next thing? Any questions or comments on anything on money, on investments?
Is there a, in the beginning, is there a percentage that is a good idea to begin to invest?
Okay. On your checking accounts, you're not going to get much money unless you have quite a bit in the bank. You've got to have that big nest egg to start off with. But when you invest, for me, I have averaged 9.1% per year. Now that means some years I've lost 3%. So, but whole average over 49 years, I've averaged 9.1. And remember what the law of 72 was? The law of 72, you divide the law of 72, you put down 72, and you divide your interest rate. So 9, so that means my money doubles every 8 years. So that means what I'm worth tonight, normally I will be worth double that in 8 years, and double that in 8 years. And it just keeps on going. So a good percentage to look at when you're investing, and you cannot get this in the bank. You have to go to an investor. And the best way to do it is, like Elanie's, I told you, she made over 10.1% last year. She's had it 1 year, but she's made 10% in her first year. She don't even know, she's 3 years old. She has no idea that she's got money in the bank. No, but you have to go let somebody help you. Now, I said, if you buy individual stock, 84 to 87% lose. They lose. They don't know how to do it. So I go to a bank or a financial institution, wherever you want, give them some money. For Chase, the minimum is $500. And then you can add to that anytime you want. And then once they start investing, you can watch it. You can put it right on your computer, and you can see it anytime you want to. Call it up there. So when you invest, you're not going to make any money much just buying stock. Next, go ahead.
Is there a, for instance, is there a percentage of my income that I should put, or that an individual should consider every week 1% of their income, something along those lines?
I say this, when you get to the law of stewardship, which we'll get to next week, give 10, save 10. In other words, you'll see that's not there's 4 laws of stewardship, that's one of them. But there's others beyond that. But give 10 and save 10. Save 10% of your income. Okay? And if you can't start now, like the old Scottish proverb, or not Scottish, but it's Pennsylvania Dutch proverb said, too old soon, too smart late. I got too old too soon, and I got too smart too late. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next time is today. Today. You just start small. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. Father died. I went to college. Got a lot of degrees. Most of them after I was married. Just kept going on, going, studying. When my first doctorate, they said, I had to give them a schedule of 1 month every 30 minutes. That's a lot of working, 30-minute segment. I have to prove where I'm going to do my studying, and I'm not taking away from my wife and kids. So there's only, when we sit down and go, there's only one time. So I got up at 4 o'clock every morning for years. And I produced, and I produced, and I produced. I had to pay the price. I don't pay no price now. Young people, you're going to pay on one end or the other. You can spend all you got now. When you get old, you can have all the time you want and no money to do anything with. You're going to pay on one end or the other. Always remember that. It's the way it's going to do. So you just start off small. Remember I said in Isaiah 28, here a little, there a little. Line upon line, precept upon precept. I started off very small with my great-grandchildren and my grandchildren. Started off small, but we just keep adding to it. And I just keep adding to it all the time till that. I personally, right now, don't buy any more stock. Me personally. Now, my investments buys, but I don't buy anymore. I'm full with it. I mean, I can't spend what I got. So I just don't. And where I pastor a church, you asked me this evening, you said, you know, if we compensate you, I said, well, the church gives me a salary. They pay me once a month. And that check on the back, for deposit only, Sharing Love Ministries. That's my corporation. I've had it since 1990. I file IRS. In fact, I'll file next month. Been doing it for all those years. Been audited, no problem. Not a penny ever comes to me. Everything anybody gives to me, I give it away. I don't need it. I don't need it. It's a lot of money. I just don't need it, so I give it away. And guess what? The more I give away, guess what God does? He just keeps finding it back. I will make a copy for this probably next year, next week, and there's 4 buckets. And you got to understand that one of them, the money just runs through and how the money goes. And the more you give, God says, the more I'll give you. So you just find your place and start investing. When we talk about annuities, which we'll talk about next week, I'll show you about that. But I've got some information there on annuities in your paper. Any other questions? We got 1 minute, 2 minutes. Because we're going to get out at 8 o'clock.
As far as someone getting started investing, you said today was the best day. I've heard other people kind of suggest to pay off certain debts first. What is your suggestion?
Okay.
To pay off debt or start investing first?
Okay. On the back of your paper, it tells you how to pay off debt. We'll go over that too.
Okay.
I developed this when we came to West Virginia in 1968. We married May 31st, my wife and I. I had not one penny. Not one penny. My mother cashed 200 war bonds and gave us $200. And here we came. By the first week, we had to pay motel bill, and they weren't expensive. We had to pay gas up here. I got here on a Sunday night late, hotel. I went to work for Standard Oil of Indiana on Wednesday. By Friday, I had no money. Zero. I went to Standard Oil and I said, is it possible for you to give me $50? They said, you hadn't even worked out $50. I said, I need it. I'm broke. I said, you can take it off my check. And so we started out nothing. Then I learned and I learned and I learned and I made mistakes. The only difference between a failure and success is this. A failure and a success make the same mistakes. A failure just keeps making them think things will change. That's called senility. A success says, hey, that's not right. That's not working. I got to drop it and move somewhere else. And God has honored me. He's blessed me. Years ago, and I quit on this, I told Kathy I'm going to be a Psalm 1 man. See, I told you I don't invest now. Just Psalm 1. Blessed is the man, now watch what's happening, that walketh not. He's walking with somebody he shouldn't. Nor standeth. Now he's stopping and he's listening. Nor standeth in the seat of the scornful. No. Well, blessed the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners. Nor, now what's the next one? He's sitting. He's joined him. Sitting in the seats of the scornful. I said, I'm not going to be that. But my delight, I'll bring you my daily Bible reading, how I read it. My Bible that I read through every morning, read it today. I've only been reading the Bible through since I was 20, When I was 20, first time I read it. I'm 73, so you can imagine how many years I've read it through. I pretty well know the Bible. Okay. But his delight is in the law of that Lord. I told Kathy, I'm going to be that man. In that law, I'm going to meditate day and night. That's going to be my number one priority. No matter if we pack up tonight and had to go somewhere, the very first thing I put, my Bible goes out. The Bible not I preach from, that I read from, I'll bring it next Wednesday. If I don't think of it, text me and tell me to bring it. And you'll look and say, I can't believe it. It sits in that car. I could care less about anything. There's nothing out there that I need that I can't buy. But I can't buy that. Because it's got every day. You know what it says in there tonight? I'm right here. Faith is substance of things. Faith is substance of things hoped for, the evidence. And I've got all these evidences. But his delight will be in the law of that Lord. In the law he will meditate day and night. He will be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. His leaf shall not wither. And Don Deal, whatever you put your hand to, I don't care what it is, I'll prosper it. Whatever you read it, Psalm 1, verse 1 through 3. Whatever I put my hand to, God has prospered it. Beyond measure, beyond measure. Okay, time to go home. Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for your kindness and these loving people who want to learn and want to do what's right. Bless them, honor them, give them wisdom and knowledge and understanding. In Jesus' name we pray, and amen. Bring this back next week, and we got 2 more weeks to get through it. Have a great week.